So the other day, I was on a road trip with a buddy of mine. We were headed up to a city called Eugene to pick up a transmission for his car. On the way, we were having a bit of an argument regarding movies. I'd been saying to him that watching a movie like Detective Pikachu wouldn't be as worth my time as I'd seen movies like that before. I said, I wonder what Detective Pikachu's going to be about. Two unlikely friends join forces to face evil. Let me guess, the main characters get into a fight in the middle of the movie? What happens? They sort it out and fight the bad guy? Let me guess how the movie ends. Does Pikachu die? Probably not. Does it all just work out? Probably. And I'm not so interested in watching a movie like that as I would be to watch something like Pulp Fiction. If I had a choice between a movie that has something to say or the same script I've seen over and over again, I think I'll go with the original tale. Now, he said that I was being unfair and that I cannot judge a movie before I've seen it, and I totally agree. However, just like when you're walking down the road and you can tell if someone looks a bit dangerous, and perhaps you don't want to ask him to go pick flowers with you alone in the woods at night, you can tell when a movie is made what the tone is going to try to be. Don't get me wrong, I'd watch Detective Pikachu, but I don't expect it to have anything to say to me. Going to a movie theater to see the same outline that I've seen a million times just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Art is about expression, and if you have nothing to say, then why is it there? Then again, I'm not an artist. I'm just some kid who has things to complain about online sometimes, but I notice these kinds of things in video games, and I wanted to share those with you today. Now, I made a video like this a long time ago. Actually, it may have even been before I changed this channel's name to BulletBarry, but I made a video talking about issues in video games, and my points were pretty straightforward. The first one was frame rate caps. A lot of games came out with a 30 or 60 FPS cap, and that was annoying. Some games would even tie the physics to the frame rate, so even if you super hacked your way into the INI files, you'd still be stuck with a less than enjoyable experience. This hasn't really been an issue lately. Ever since G-Sync and FreeSync monitors became more popular, it's hard to get these companies to calm down. FPS cap 1000, good lord, nobody needs that, but thank you. The second problem I had was field of view sliders. I talked about this one a lot, and it seems almost every game that comes out lately for the PC, and even for consoles in some cases, have FOV sliders. If not some console command for it, and thank God for that. I honestly wouldn't be able to play some of my favorite games without this feature, as a low field of view has always caused me intense motion sickness. However, these are not the only issues regarding video games, and recently, as I've been gaming a lot more, I've found a few more that I don't see a lot of people talking about. The first thing is scripting. I don't know about you, but for a game to be immersive, it has to do a little more than make a pretty world. I was absolutely sucked into Ezio's Assassin's Creed story. Ubisoft did a fantastic job with that character, and I really felt connected to him and his motivations. Fast forward a few Assassin's Creed games, and the characters are all the same old boring nothing characters over and over again. Oh, the Templars killed my family and now I'm mad. I have no depth at all, so then you're just left with this game that holds your hand and has nothing to say. Every Assassin's Creed game since 3 has been go here, do this, kill that man, now he's going to tell you why you're actually the bad guy and he's the good guy, over and over and over. Ubisoft never has to come out and say, hey, we ran out of ideas. The games they make show it, and it wouldn't be so bad if they put a little more attention into their characters. I mean, Jesus, they even killed off the only character that was interesting outside of the Animus. Don't even get me started on those missions. See, now compare that to a Rockstar game. Rockstar is the Tarantino of video games. The characters are believable, and even if they're over-the-top crazy like Trevor in GTA 5, it's still believable. It's like watching a CW show. Don't get me wrong, they're exciting, they're flashy, haha, but they lack any substance. It's the difference between watching Supergirl and Breaking Bad. One of them's a simple action show with literally nothing to say. The characters don't even talk to each other, they just say catchy action lines over and over. And then you have Breaking Bad with actual characters filling the show. The stakes feel real in Breaking Bad, and you end up on the edge of your seat because of the writing. This is the immersion that I miss in video games, and it can be the deciding factor sometimes. See, the thing that bothers me so much is AAA games are all pretty much the same lately, and I know that's gonna bother some people. You know, Barry, if you played the game and enjoyed it for the game it is, then you wouldn't care. You just don't know how to enjoy video games anymore, and that's just not true. I was captivated by Red Dead 2, and it was the character development that did it. Let me ask you something. If I wanted to jump into a pretty world and just dick around, do you think it'd be hard? Spider-Man, Uncharted, God of War, Assassin's Creed. Not only do all these games look the same, but most of the time the mechanics are just rinse-repeat. All Arkham-based combat or it's a third-person shooter. So then what differentiates them other than the way the characters look? If you told me that Uncharted and The Last of Us were the same game, I would just believe you. Now don't get me wrong. Yes, these games all look the same, play very similarly, but what they do have to offer is a story, and that's why games like Assassin's Creed just don't do anything for me. Ubisoft, Rockstar, Square Enix, Naughty Dog, all of your games have the same look, and a lot of these developers think that throwing pretty colors at the screen is enough to entice me to play. Illumination does the same thing with their movies, and their movies are garbage. The second issue I have kind of falls in line with the first, and this is voice acting. When I play a video game these days from AAA developers, it always surprises me when I hear the voice acting. It often feels kind of flat. Now, that's not to say that every AAA game has awful voice acting, and most of the time it's fine. But that's it. For a studio to make a AAA video game for millions of dollars and have fine voice acting, I was always a bit confused. Seems to me like a strong character can only be made if the voice actor has their heart in it. But if you look into this, what you realize is voice actors are crapped on in the AAA gaming world. There have been strikes due to pay cuts, and even sometimes the voice actors never even being paid for their work at all. This goes for more than voice actors too. Sometimes even full dev teams are canned once the job is done, Konami. But it's kind of embarrassing when an indie game like Firewatch comes out and dominates the story because of this close attention to this aspect of the characters.
Hey, there's a tree out here that's been ripped to hell.
And?
Don't you think that's, disconcerting?
Henry, there are 500-pound grizzly bears out here. They sharpen their claws on trees.
We don't have grizzlies in Colorado. People killed them a long time ago.
Well, in the thoroughfare, they hunt people, they kill people, they bury their bodies, and then come back weeks later to eat them because they prefer rotten meat. People just disappear.
Don't you think that's disconcerting?
No, Henry, that's life.
I've never been more immersed into a game than when I was playing that, and the FOV was horrible in Firewatch, and I still played the whole story. I had to know what was going to happen. The characters are both so real, and it's that kind of connection that I'm missing when I play these AAA games. Like I say before, these companies write a bland, nothing character, make him say some big tough guy lines, and figure, that's probably good enough. It's lazy, scummy that they're not even paying these voice actors what they should, and it makes their games feel like the only reason they're there is to make money. You don't make art to make money, you do it because you have something to express. Now, I use the word art, and I only do it because that's what everyone else says. Video games are an art, but if all these damn games look the same, then is it art? It's like if I brought you a toy soldier. He's got a backpack and a gun, and I told you that I made it. You'd probably be impressed. Say I made a few more, and they were all a bit different, but I never did anything else. Just made the same 10 to 20 figures for years and called it art. That's not art anymore, it's manufactured, and that moves me into my last point, the graphics. For whatever reason, we're hellbent on making graphics that look as real as possible, but in doing so, we're losing out on some of the fun of the video games. As much as I adore Red Dead 2 for its characters and story, the game itself is on rails. You ride your horse and it'll throw you into a tree sometimes because it's afraid. Yeah, fine, that's more realistic, but is it fun? When you play the missions in Red Dead 2, you don't get to pick how to kill someone or how the mission is even completed. You're told what to do, and if you don't do it exactly as the game says, you lose. That's not fun, that's the Terminator arcade game, and I feel like this realism has robbed some games of what makes them fun in the first place. Take games like Postal 4. They could have easily replicated the advanced ray tracing graphics of today, but instead they kept their style as close to the last game as possible, and it hasn't lost its charm. Give that game to EA or Ubisoft and see what happens to it, and it's annoying that the prettiest games are the ones that get the most hype. For me, it's like telling your dog that you're going to give him new dog food every month, but instead you buy him the same kibble over and over again and tell him it's new. And there's the dog happy enough to eat it without question. Part of me wonders if I should be envious of that. Have I become so jaded that I can't just enjoy these games? But then what's so wrong with wanting something different? I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way, and perhaps if there are enough of us who want more out of this industry, we'll be heard. Maybe these AAA developers get off their lazy asses and make something new instead of something they know works. I'm not trying to get upset, it just matters to me. I've played video games all my life, and it sucks to watch something you love turn into a money machine. I just want to engage in media that has a mind behind it, something a little deeper than a guy with a gun. Forgive my sour attitude, but maybe that's what I'm getting Postal for.